Okay, so hi everyone. So this session I'm gonna start with a quick round of questions for any potential surgery or anything like that, and then we have a session on MapSwipe by Johnny, and then a short session by Helen on Excel maps options if she can make it, which looks like she's still struggling. Should we just quickly go around? Everyone knows each other, right? I presume so.
I'm not sure Nicola and Izzy know.
Nicola, have you met Izzy before?
I haven't, no.
Izzy, do you want to introduce yourself very briefly?
Hi Nicola, I'm Izzy, I'm part of the MAPS team.
Hi Izzy, nice to meet you. I'm in international programs.
She's part of the IM roster.
Ah, awesome.
Cool. Okay, so let's start. Does anyone have any questions for the surgery, which I did advertise, and it looks like people might not do, but does anyone... Andrew, do you still want to cover your question briefly, or?
So it doesn't have to be covered, it's just something I'm curious about. So on the analytics hour, Johnny and one of the others was showing Hotjar, which you had shown me before. And so the idea of being able to do kind of user analytics, like seeing what people are clicking on and get a heat map of where people's attention goes, and being able to use that for dashboards. So things like Power BI dashboards, or for Esri dashboards or GitHub dashboards, just seemed very powerful as a way of getting feedback. And I was wondering if there was any precedent for that, or how we could, where that was possible. And that might be an interesting Matt question as well, whether he's doing something like that, the ready database or something, like which bits get high usage or low usage or that kind of thing.
Okay, that sounds like a very large question. I think we could make a session probably in the future about user experience in general.
Cool.
How does that sound? Yeah,
that's great. And especially that, I guess, where it is practical and pragmatic. So like Johnny's experience and Matt's experience would be really useful to learn from, and yours.
Okay, let's, I think if everyone agrees, then we can have a general, more prepared session on user experience it could be for dashboards, but it could be for other products in general. And that would make it more general as well, as options. We can schedule that for next week, if that works.
Yeah, unless something more useful comes up. It's just on my mind.
Yeah. No, it's useful. Definitely user experience is top. It's just so that we don't keep it like on one tool, but like to have multiple options as well. Okay. I'm actually really excited about this session. So I'm gonna let Johnny present MapSwipe. I think you can share already, right?
Yeah, so I am working out the best way to do this as we go. I thought I was later.
Should Helen go first? Because Helen's
on. Yeah, that'd be great.
Helen, are you ready?
On my Mac, I was going to restart the computer, then nothing. It's just frozen. So I'm trying to get it back.
So okay. Whichever one is ready first.
Well, I can go, but you might have to watch me finding some websites as I go.
Yeah, so. I think that's we can live through that.
Okay, cool. So
Helen, we'll give you a 10-minute slot at the end if that works.
Yes, that's fine.
Cool.
Sorry
thank you.
That.
All yours, Johnny.
Cool. Thanks. Just setting that. Okay, cool. So MapSwipe, awesome. Do people know MapSwipes? Oh, there's only a few people on. Pencil, Bose, or Matt. Have you heard of MapSwipe?
I have. This is the award-winning app thing, isn't it?
Oh, that is the introduction we wanted, Matt. Yeah. Well done.
But I haven't seen it in depth. No.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So. I'll probably bounce all over the place here. Ask me questions if I go, if it's not clear. Andrew as well, you can get some clarifying bits in, bits that I've missed. So it came from Missing Maps. essentially, and it's basically a way of contributing to humanitarian mapping on your phone. So missing maps is very, you need a laptop and you need to dedicate quite a bit of time to actually be like tracing buildings. And MapSwipe's like kind of a lighter touch. You can pick it up and do a minute or two here and there, and requires very little, you don't have to be quite so invested. Engaged, actually, I should say. So it was actually started by MSF. They had some seed money to set up a new app. And a few years ago, they ran out of funding. So it's now actually hosted by the British Red Cross in our app stores. And yeah, so I'm just going to run through. I'm also going to demo it, and maybe we can all download it and do a bit ourselves. Where do I start? Sorry, this isn't great. Okay, what I'm going to do. What's the point of MapSwipe? Let's start with that. So hopefully people are aware with this as the tasking manager. So this is where a lot of missing maps is based on this. So this is where you'll actually contribute to the mapping. And I wonder here if I can search. Oh no, I haven't used the new one. What do you reckon? Wow. Okay. See, this is why I was going to try and load these up in the background, so sorry about this.
I've posted some relevant links in the chat, Johnny, just to try and save you time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. This has actually worked. That's lucky.
This is the hot tasking manager, the new one. I haven't seen it actually.
Yeah, so I've not used it too much as well. I'm trying to find more. Oh, that one's the same.
Does everyone know what the hot tasking manager is, or?
I've not seen that before.
Okay. I think it might be worth.
Yeah, so I've done a kind of poor job of trying to explain it. So, right, hang on, let me get. So basically, OpenStreetMap is. Start from the very beginning. Maybe I should have done that. OpenStreetMap. Does everybody know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is basically the Wikipedia of maps is a nice way of putting it. It's created by everyone, so it's owned by no one and under an open license. So this is all mapped by volunteers. I can literally, so it's like a Google Maps interface, but the difference being I can just go up here and click edit and edit the map directly and add stuff in. So traditionally people would like map their local areas and name their local street and draw their building on and stuff. But then it was seen that this could be extremely powerful for humanitarian response in places that aren't mapped so well. This was Andrew, you should probably be doing this introduction, I think.
Just keeping on track, if that's useful.
Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to delegate and make Andrew do the introduction of the birth, because then I'm going to be talking the whole time otherwise. Yeah.
So
I like this.
Some places in the world, the maps are missing. So think slums and refugee camps. Anywhere there isn't commercial activities, the maps tend to be missing. So rural areas are often one of the things. So the tasking manager that Johnny's on now helps. It's like a platform that helps facilitate crowd mapping in a very specific area. And like OpenStreetMap or Wikipedia, it's very much collaborative mapping. So in this case, somebody who's the organization has asked that that very particular area is not mapped well enough for the humanitarian work that it wants to do. So HOT stands for the Humanitarian OpenStreet Tasking Manager. And this area, they're trying to do some humanitarian work in, as you can see in the description. And they're asking you to essentially trace satellite imagery on this remote tool. This is just a tool to interface with the big database of OpenStreetMap. So it's just a way of looking at the database in a very like focused way for our community, the humanitarian mappers. And so that sort of covers a bit of missing maps and a bit of humanitarian OpenStreetMap. This is the tasks. So each individual block, if you click on a block, essentially you go in and help trace that block to the specifications in the instructions. So sometimes it's map buildings or map roads or fixing stuff. There's kind of a baseline community that sort of maps the basics, and then there's sort of a validator community, which is about the quality and quantity. So trying to make sure that the maps are good enough for the use case. So if MSF is doing a vaccination campaign, and they need to they're trying to get a building count to do a population estimate and to help support their proactive vaccinations, they need to know that the map is, I don't know, like 95% good enough or 99% good enough. So someone like in our team or a lady called Eureka in MSF would make sure that that's up to scratch, and she will often do that with the help of validators in the community. I'm going to stop there and let Johnny.
Yeah, that was much better. Thank you.
Just does anyone have any questions so far to clarify anything or?
So this tasking manager has been around for a while, and MapSwipe solves a different problem. So the tasking manager is good where there are blatantly buildings that are missing, but it's very bad at open space with a few buildings in it. And now Johnny takes over, talks about MapSwipe.
Now I've got examples. Thank you. Much better explained, and I was able to do stuff in the background. Thanks. So yeah, as Andrew said, like the tasking manager is a way of coordinating the volunteers and identifying areas to be mapped. So like this area, for example, I could go into OpenStreetMap and edit it directly, but this is a way of coordinating the volunteers. And by default, you'll draw an area and it will split it into a square grid to be mapped. As Andrew said, where there's lots of buildings, this is great. People can go in and mark the buildings in this square. But if you have a really big area with sparsely populated or sparsely spread buildings, very engaged mappers can spend all of their time just trying to find buildings to map. So that's where MapSwipe comes in, and it's basically a first pass of the imagery where same way, so Red Cross, MSF will say, we want to map this area, but it goes into MapSwipe first. And what we do in MapSwipe is just identify where there are buildings, which I'll show you how in a sec. But basically the output is this, where now the tasking is very kind of random looking, that these are now areas where somebody has already said there are buildings there to be mapped. So like the gaps in between, we know there's no buildings there, so you won't waste your time looking for buildings. Is that clear? And then I think I'll just dig into MapSwipe. Any questions?
It's really cool.
Cool. So I am going to dial in on my phone. Should have done that as well. Sorry.
Just to clarify for the other people, MapSwipe is a phone app rather than like missing maps is, or sorry, not missing maps, like other mapping things tend to be like on your desktop.
Yeah, good point. Do you have the meeting ID?
For this one?
Yeah.
It's, try to get it for you. It's 99823207790. Should I send it? I'll post it in the. You got it?
It's longer now.
I'll post it just in case.
I guess a pragmatic example, Johnny. So, like, what does a COVID task look like? Or what is a so some of the humanitarian use cases behind it is quite useful.
Yeah. Sorry, this is like real painful videos.
I think some of the uses for missing maps and this kind of crowdsourced things is that when you're in the field, it's really nice that, like, let's say, for example, you're trying to do an assessment and you don't know how much population there is in a certain area. And if missing maps has gone there before and mapped you, then you can estimate like the population in the area by looking at the number of buildings, roughly, if you know if it's a residential area and things like that. The other application of it is sometimes you can do post-disaster mapping, where you look at the buildings that have been destroyed by the hurricane and you know how many people are affected. So these are some of the things that you can use from the field once you get deployed, especially if you go as the first or second rotation, because that's the kind of questions that you need to answer as an IM person. And making the best use of these tools as you can, reaching out to the right people and things like that are kind of helpful. I'm just filling in time for you, Johnny, so as soon as you're ready, just let me know.
Has that worked?
Yeah, I can see it. Amazing.
So this is MapSwipe. So as Tom said, this is an actual app on your phone. You can download it on the App Store or Google Play Store. And yeah, it says that it's by the British Red Cross, which is cool, but it's just to stress it is a very much a community driven app and almost entirely built and maintained by volunteers, which is awesome. There's one developer in particular who has basically built the app again from the ground up and does a lot of the maintenance and everything. And then we have people at Heidelberg University in Germany and MSF who are key players in it. That's the people who maintain the app. It's all on, oh, I should have done that before. All the code and the backlog of what we want to add is all on GitHub. So that's the community of people that maintain the app. But then just to stress as well, anybody can request an area to be mapped. Like it's a platform for humanitarians. So if you have an area to be mapped from any organization, they can request to have it added to the app. So this is like the first screen that you get to. So we've got a few projects at the moment in Botswana for the COVID-19 response, and in Nizi, I don't know how to say that, and I don't know where that is, from MSF. You see these two look the same. It's just because the area that they want to map is so big, so we just split it down into subtasks. And so if I click on this top one, it will give us a brief introduction to the project and why we're doing it. And you can also then run a tutorial for your first time, or we'll jump straight into the map now. So if I click on that, we're now in a project. So at the top, we're looking for buildings, which it would have said in the introduction as well. So you are now presented with this screen, which is quite hard to see on there as well. There's basically a grid of 6. So, and when I tap, the grid changes color, the square changes color. And what we're doing is it showing? Oh, it's going to show my notifications. That could get awkward. Oh, shit. I don't know if I can stop that. Hang on. Yeah, that might do it. So what you do is you're looking for buildings. We tap once for there is a building there, and the tile goes green. Twice if there's maybe a building there, and it goes orange. And 3 times if there's bad imagery, such as cloud cover or the imagery hasn't loaded properly. And then basically you swipe. So it was first called the Tinder of mapping. And yeah, so you just swipe. So on this one, I can't see any buildings clearly. And this is mostly done on areas where there are, as I said, like not too many buildings. So most of the time you're just swiping and no buildings there. So I swipe again, nothing. And simple as that, I'm just now swiping through trying to find a building.
Sorry, what do the colors correspond to?
Yeah, so hopefully it'll be clearer when if I find a building.
It's really changed from the first time I've seen it, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I remember something quite different.
Oh,
It's
cool.
really, it looks more useful now.
Yeah, I hope so. So we're trying to keep on changing it. So I mean, here's clearly a road, like there's a feature there, but we're only looking for buildings in this instance. So keep on going. This is going to be the worst. Another road. Nothing.
So what happens if you miss a building? Let's say there was a very small thing.
Very good question. These are the plants that I need, thank you. So basically every image is seen by at least 3 people. And we can actually change that on the back end very simply, but the default is 3. So that means, like, obviously we want people to do their best to try and identify a building, but if you miss one, at least 2 more people are going to see the same square. And then Heidelberg, the guys there, data wizards, have done lots of analysis and like compared MapSwipe output to final OpenStreetMap mapping and other data sources, and found that like with a validation of 3 is a pretty good capture of where the buildings are. But yeah, the more validations you do, the more accurate it gets.
I guess the point here is that what Johnny's doing in kind of milliseconds is a waste of people's time at a mapathon.
Yeah.
You can't do this as easily using the tasking manager. So it's like a completely different workflow to solve a different problem. Yeah.
So each task is split into these rows. So at the moment, any data that I would have input is just stored on my device. And then when I click one of these buttons, so I'll continue mapping this time, it then syncs it with the database. And then I can go on to the next one and see if we ever find any buildings. But this is a prime example of why MapSwipe this is a good project for MapSwipe, because it would be a waste of time if somebody's bothered to come to a mapathon with their laptop and their mouse and they just spend all their time looking. Wow, okay, maybe I should do a different project.
And the original use case for MSF was DRC because of the jungle. So there were these tiny villages in like very green, highly populated jungle, and they just take forever to find using the traditional volunteer mapping. And this helps just massively focus it down to the task.
Okay, so I'm trying a different one here now because there's no joy there. No buildings on this one, but we've got clouds. So with this, I will say again, so if there was a building, I'd tap once, it goes green, twice if I'm not sure if there's a building, and then 3 for red is a problem with the image that it hasn't loaded or cloud cover. So now I can just go through and mark all of these. This one does have a bit, but I can see that there's nothing there, so I might leave that one. Okay, this is a good one, finally. All right, so I can mark the clouds, and now I finally have one that definitely has some buildings in it, so I'll mark that as green. And then this one, you can hold down on a tile, and it slightly zooms in. Yeah, it looks like there's some round huts there as well, and some square buildings, so I'd mark that one as green as well, and then go to the next one. And yeah, so like once you're in the mapathon, mapping each building individually, it quite takes quite a bit of time. Whereas now I'm just going through and just saying there are buildings here. So it's still fraction of time, just right, that square, that square, that square, maybe that one. Oh no, definitely that one. Maybe that one. And then, yeah, then you can just start firing through.
Does it work offline? Like, so could you do it on the tube when we all feel brave enough to go on the tube again?
Great question.
Very good question. I wish I had a better answer. That's what it was sold as originally, and it was released with offline capabilities, but there was a bug, and it's now on our backlog to be fixed. But we do really want that, but it's not possible at the moment, sadly.
Yes, you can only swipe on the bus for now.
Only on the bus, yeah. Well said. So that's basically it for our traditional project types. We've mapped 1 million square kilometers as of 2 weeks ago now, which is like the size of Egypt, I think. People have swiped through, which is awesome. Some people have mapped stupid amounts. Like we can actually see like on the leaderboard, it is amazing how like engaged some people are on this. It's like productive faff rather than scrolling through Reddit feed. You know, you're actually contributing to the mapping efforts with it. Then we have this kind of gamification where you can go up the levels. And right, what I will do is show you what we have in store. So that was the actual live app with the projects that we're working on now. But I also have the development version. So this is just for the team working on the app. So we've got lots of messy stuff in here that we play with. One of the new ones coming up is going to be a completeness project. Ah, perfect for a demonstration. This now brings in 2 data sources. So it's got the imagery underneath, and it's bringing in what exists in OpenStreetMap at the moment on top. And that is the blue squares in here. So now, rather than looking for buildings, and we're still working on, we haven't really worked out the best way to explain this to the users yet, which is why it's not in the live app. But instead of looking for buildings, you're looking for, is OpenStreetMap complete? So on here, and it'll be quite tough, we still need to work through some stuff. The big buildings seem to be covered, and it looks like they're cars or something, the other bits. So, I mean, it looks fine here. Wow, some interesting shaped buildings.
So just a bit of an explanation. Those shapes are being pulled from the OpenStreetMap database and being overlaid onto the imagery, and you're just checking that every building essentially has a footprint.
Exactly.
So that's kind of a filter on the database that's being overlaid on the imagery, and you're just checking is there maybe stuff missing.
Yeah.
Man, that's really cool.
Yeah, so this is brand new and hasn't been put in the prod app yet, in the live app. So this is an easier one. Those big buildings were weird, but now you can just get a sense of like, there is pretty good OpenStreetMap completion of this area. So you would like mark them. I don't even know if I'm supposed to mark it green if it's good, or like we're still working through the actual like user experience. But it's just a cool new application using almost the same interface, just making it slightly different.
And this, so on the missing maps challenges, like on the kind of humanitarian map challenges, just the basic adding buildings was a big one. So that's quantity, and missing maps as community has largely solved that. And now that we have quantity, what we don't have is quality. And what Johnny's showing now is a way of helping to validate quality and validate updates. So if we had imagery from like 5 years ago or 10 years ago when it was donated, and then we get new imagery, this can very quickly, again, instead of having to remap the whole area or having somebody scroll through, this helps focus on just the new buildings or where the tropical storm destroyed an area and like the path of the storm kind of thing.
Which leads on quite nicely to, so this one, I've forgotten exactly what the use case was. At one point we wanted to be checked if the whole of Taiwan had been mapped in OpenStreetMap, which was quite cool. But these all come from various, it's such a cool project because MSF will have this idea and come in, and then Heidelberg have been doing that. It's just like the use cases are coming from all over. The last one, as Andrew just said, another way of looking at like the difference and especially like if it was post-disaster or something, is we've got this, again, it's a new project type which is close to being released, but is still not available in the live app. And this is, we call it, it's a change detection project. So basically now you get shown a before and after image, and you tap to say if anything has changed. And this one in particular is saying, you are looking for destroyed buildings. So we can see the image on top and underneath. And again, we're still working through some user experience things where like these images don't perfectly align because they might be slightly offset. So it can be quite difficult for the user. So we're still working on them, and we've recently changed this user interface to match the normal project as much as it can. So again, you're looking and then you would say, yes, tap once, yes, there is a difference, maybe there is, or it's bad imagery again. And then you can cycle through these. So this one is a bit easier. It's slightly offset, but you can see similarities here, and actually they look largely the same. So you'd leave that. So this has got a few applications. We tested it for Cox's Bazaar, and we had drone imagery actually, and then it was reviewed. We could have different dates, and then you could change detection of has the settlement there grown and which areas then need mapping, or the other one being post-disaster, before and after. Are the two main ones. I think that's it. And the last one to come, which is in the future, we don't have it, it's not so far along as these ones, so I can't show you an example. But the final thing that we've been discussing is using, I mean, there's been lots of work around using AI to identify features like buildings and roads. And we are thinking of how we could use MapSwipe as a means of verifying AI inputs. So similar to like the completeness one that I've showed you, which now isn't going to show me any buildings. Nope. Here. So like maybe these would have been drawn by AI, and then MapSwipe is could be a way of verifying the algorithm that has put them there, and then ideally could then further train that algorithm to get better at finding buildings. That's dreamland for the moment. But.
So there's no more, if I understand correctly, you're not going to do any more mapping in here, mainly verification or confirmation of stuff, right?
So like the people who've originally created the app had dreams of like this being, you being able to actually do the mapping in here, OpenStreetMap mapping. But with so much development in AI, there's loads of different things like Facebook, and Andrew can probably give a better description of the different efforts towards that. We think actually maybe it's better as a way of verifying it, basically. Andrew,
maybe if you find a link to Rapid ID, Jenny. Yeah. So we don't want to be doing anything that other people are already doing and we have access to. Like we're only trying to solve the bit of the problem that hasn't been solved before. So with the artificial intelligence mapping, there's a lot of it out there, but it's just not commercially accessible. But they're getting better at kind of donating it for the areas that we're interested in, if that makes sense. And Facebook has a big kind of OpenStreetMap investment, and it's obviously like a bit of a humanitarian thing, but they've got this thing called Rapid ID, where they are essentially doing like the tasking manager, but kind of the artificial intelligence version of the tasking manager, where you are more of a quality control for the artificial intelligence than, so you're not doing the mapping, you're almost validating the thing. And pointing out mistakes where it might have missed something, and then that helps retrain the algorithm again. So we don't, if they're ahead on that, then we don't need to do it. And as long as we have access to that, and with Rapid ID we do. I think it's called Map with AI or something.
Yeah, no, it's got it. Okay. So yeah, this is Facebook's AI site, and this is quite good because it gives a kind of visualization of what they do. So like these purple roads, for example, have been identified by Facebook's algorithm, and then on Rapid or RapID, I don't really know how to say it, rather than tracing the road, you are just going in and confirming that it is a road, and then maybe giving more information, like it's a motorway, or giving it a name if you have that information. Things. But it takes away the manual task of actually tracing the road in the first place. Right, God, that's 45 minutes. I've been talking too much. Just to finish off again. So as I mentioned, MapSwipe is entirely open source. It's all on GitHub, the code and the project management. So we've got the app itself, the back end, and then the website. If I go into the app repository, like this is literally the source code and everything. And then issues up here. This is the backlog of things that we want to add to the app, but with limited volunteer resource, we have to prioritize. We've just started a project with the World Bank, which is quite exciting, and they are looking at using MapSwipe for micropayments. So they have a university in Mali, I think we're starting with, and students affected by COVID, not able to work, are now going to possibly be using MapSwipe to do stuff and then get paid on their contributions by the World Bank. And we literally kicked that off last week, so that's quite exciting. The World Bank are investing in MapSwipe because it's not a normal project, so we're going to have to change things slightly for them. But it's quite cool that we can use that funding to produce what the World Bank want, but also for the greater good of the app itself. So we're trying to work out how we can make things reusable for everyone. And then the last thing I'll just say, because this is happening right now, we just joined this thing called Open Collective 2 days ago, which is, it's basically like the bank account, let's say. MapSwipe has not had any funding before, but this is going to act as a possible bank account for MapSwipe, but it provides all the legal financial stuff that I know nothing about behind it, tax, etc. And we're literally still pending approval, but it will mean that people can go on and make a donation to the app as a recurring thing, as a sponsor. This could be quite cool if a corporate organization uses it, and we could say, can you just put some money in the pot? And this is then again all open. The accounts would all be open and anybody could submit an expense. So we might have a developer who has to update something in the app, and then they could submit their time as an expense, and then the community would say, yep, that is good, and then they can get paid out this account, and it would all be open. Yeah, we're still pending acceptance, but you would literally have your whole accounts on this website.
And another interesting example of an expense is, so BRC is currently paying the sort of app bills for it. So British Red Cross is paying for the back end hosting of all of this. But if corporates were using it, like nothing connected with BRC, then maybe Johnny could put in an expense claim for the hosting costs, so that the app wasn't costing British Red Cross anything, and corporates could fund it without having a corporate relationship with British Red Cross, if that makes sense. That's another example of...
It's a great crowdsourced donation.
Yeah.
And so just to finish with sales pitches, everybody please download the app and have a go. It's awesome, and send back any feedback if anything doesn't work or you have ideas. That's cool on a personal level, but also for the British Red Cross. If we have areas, and especially if there's people from international, and if we have areas that we're working in and need better mapping, we can add that project to MapSwipe extremely easily. And actually, British Red Cross, we don't add much as an organisation. Most of our tasks come from MSF or HOT.
What's the workflow? Who do we contact?
So we're improving that, but at the moment, just contact me and I can add it in. If we had loads of projects, we can add people as project managers to add it directly to the app. There's nothing sorted on it, but just reach out to me if.
I was really desperate last year to find like crowdsourced mapping, and I just couldn't find any contact for anything. And Hot, I tried contacting people on Hot, and they kind of pushed back. So I don't know if this would be a good use case because it's quite different. And I don't know what you think about this, but I really needed like someone to help mapping the destroyed buildings and just on the west tip of some of the islands of the Bahamas.
Mhm.
And I just thought my time in the field was not well used mapping stuff that could be done remotely.
Yeah.
Would that be a good use case, or should that go somewhere else?
I mean, that sounds cool. Is that like we haven't done that before, but I'm not sure we've done a project where you are looking just for destroyed buildings, but that would be really exciting to explore. It sounds like it would fit into exactly the same workflow of yes, no, maybe. Are there any destroyed buildings?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
definitely. So yeah, either come to me or via the website. There's what we want to do is, and this is my job to do in my own time, is like request an area to be mapped. We want to make this, at the moment it's just an email address, but this will be a form that you could fill in, and then we'd add it to the app.
Cool. That was really, really cool. Thank you, Johnny and Andrew, for all the explanations. I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah.
We've got 2 quick minutes for any last questions on MapSwipe, and then it'll be we'll ask Helen to give us an Excel walkthrough. Any last questions?
That was really interesting, really cool. Thanks, Johnny and Jude.
Cool. No worries. Thanks.
Okay, then. So Helen, are you ready, or do you still have any issues with your computer?
No, it's all loaded.
Oh, amazing.
There's moments where it's a bit slow, so I
Yeah.
don't want to open up anything else. So hopefully it'll work.
Okay, so Helen's going to show us, it's also mapping. So this is how to make maps on Excel, and obviously the advantage of it is you don't need any other software. It's quick and easy, hopefully. So Helen, all yours.
Okay, thank you. It's okay. Slow to share the screen. Right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. There's a dark screen. Is anyone seeing anything?
No, it's trying.
Yeah, it normally takes a second.
Yeah, it says I'm sharing my screen, so
Can you try to show your entire screen, not just the software or something like that?
yeah, it's on my desktop.
I think you actually do have IT problems.
Turn it off and on again. I mean, just turn the share off on and on again.
Okay.
IT support.
Currently not responding Zoom.
It's
Oh my
because it's a Mac.
No, it's on Microsoft's laptop.
Do you want to try to turn off the sharing?
Because it's Microsoft.
It's literally frozen.
Oh no.
It's not responding.
Oh dear. Let me try to take over the screen sharing and see if that works. Oh no, something's happening. We can see your screen. It's just very slow.
I can see like a screen inside a screen. Is that what you guys can do?
Yeah, we're starting to see the screen now with a Zoom not responding.
Yeah, it's frozen.
Can you open up your task manager? I think it's Control-Alt-Delete. And then task manager.
Hasn't worked.
Oh. How about right click on at the bottom on the
Here we go, Tassandra. It was working fine
Let me try
earlier,
to
and then
take over your
I was
screen
playing.
and cancel your screen sharing, and then you can have it back. Okay. How do I stop the sharing? There we go.
Helen, I'm also noticing that it looks like you've got quite a few other programs open, and it could be worth closing all those and maybe even
I've only got Excel open.
Ah, okay, cool.
I don't even have Google
Okay.
open anymore.
My suggestion blown.
Okay. I think you might have to restart the computer. Unless, Andrew, you were going to say.
No, I was just wondering if somebody else is on a PC and they opened up a browser, opened up a Google Sheet, would you be able to demo it on there, Helen?
An Excel sheet, you meant?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay, Joe, I can do that. So I'll open an Excel and maybe you can tell me what to do. Would that be a good alternative?
Yeah, I'm also cutting in and out of your video and audio, so only hear parts of the conversation.
Oh no.
It may be you might be having a bandwidth issue. You could try closing Zoom and then rejoining Zoom. Zoom looks like it's having a bit of a problem. And everybody could try stopping video as well.
Yeah, let's all cut our videos.
I've already tried to restart Zoom earlier.
Yeah, just to rejoin in a second. I think what we could do in the meantime is we can keep talking about MapSwipe and missing maps. Andrew, what's the last use case of missing maps in the field, or Johnny, or something like that?
It's constantly changing. The COVID one was interesting.
Yeah.
Because so much of the humanitarian work is around health, and COVID sort of amplifies the health complications. They took sort of the whole essentially backlog of the mapping on the tasking manager and started sort of almost like classifying them by like a sort of a health index, and then tagging those tasks with like COVID related tasks, which was quite interesting. Hot was doing that. What other use cases? I feel like Johnny maybe talking through the Mozambique flooding could be an interesting example, because that was a bit of missing maps, and I think MapSwipe was involved as well, and it wasn't the best overall coordination because it was a big scale for the first time for all those tools. It was like Red Cross deployments. We had people deployed. They were using drones. They were using new imagery. It was kind of all of that together.
Yeah, if Johnny wants to quickly talk about it.
I would default to you for that, Andrew. So MapSwipe, I don't think was used for that. That's the one limitation with MapSwipe in a quick onset disaster is that it's not always the quickest, because you're actually, although it's more efficient, it also means you're adding in another tool. So if you have an area that wants to be mapped, it has to go the whole way through MapSwipe, and then that data can be exported to the tasking manager. So although more efficient, because each tool is focusing on its speciality, it's not the quickest.
That's a good point, actually. It's not the crisis.
Yeah.
It's more of the medium and longer term mapping that MapSwipe is really good at, and the quality. But when you just need quantity, that's MapSwipe is part of a workflow as opposed to the go-to tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are still waiting.
Do we know where missing maps and MapSwipe were going to be in the next few years, or what are the planned developments? AI?
Yeah, on all fronts. So the Spanish Red Cross have just joined Missing Maps, and they're incredibly good at mobile data collection. So they are kind of core into ODK, the Open Data Collection Kit, and the development of that, as are the Americans. So it's likely that we'll see better bottom-up OpenStreetMap integration through ODK, ODKX, some of the open source platforms. The one that I'm excited by is kind of more on the analytics side. Spanish Red, and this is very much spitballing. This isn't like short term, but the Spanish Red Cross are into something called Pentaho, which is kind of like Power BI but open source. It's kind of like a real analytics engine, but completely open source. And that focusing on a mapping or mapping dashboard type use case could be interesting. Yeah.
I think Helen is back. Helen, do you want to give it a? You only have 2 minutes, unfortunately, but we can overrun a little bit if people can stay, and then it will be recorded, so people who need to leave will share the video out.
Yeah. Okay. Shall I share my screen?
Yeah. Let's try again.
Kill video, that might help again.
Right. It's on the screen. Share.
I think you might need a new laptop.
This is new. I bought it like right at the beginning of lockdown. Right.
You might want to reinstall Zoom as well, maybe if you're using a desktop app, because it's every time you've started sharing, I've noticed the voice starts cutting out. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just downloaded Zoom like today, so not going well for me. Right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh.
Oh dear. Oh, it's working.
Yeah.
So go for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That looks great, by the way.
So I basically, this is what I think is the issue I've been having. But I basically connected to a online source.
You're cutting off.
So from a Wikipedia table, by going to data and get data and from the web, and you just paste the link, and this is what it came up with. Can you hear me still?
I think there's two things. Your screen is a bit slow, and the second thing is you're cutting off at times. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, it seems to be working. So maybe if you just restart, because I think we missed what happened at the beginning.
Okay. Basically, I just got the data from an online source, so from Wikipedia, and then what you can do, it comes in a data table already, and you can go to, I'm going to do 3D mapping, so insert, then the 3D map tool here, and open maps. So these are the ones I've already done before, and I can currently go onto one opened up, and it will select
If you do
the
your
data
demo
it thinks is
a bit
best
slowlier,
fitting.
I think your screen is struggling to share. So if you just like go really slowly,
Should I
like
do
click
it
on
next
something.
or anything?
Yeah, maybe let's do that. Let's do a trial run a bit later on, like just the two of us, and we can try to sort out your IT issues. And then let's do another presentation next week. It might be better because it's actually worth showing. And it would be nice to have your time on it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot I can do and show, but if my screen is slow, it might not be the best.
Yeah. Okay, then sorry everyone. Let's just reschedule this for next week. But at least you can see her screen and you can see what to expect next week. Some exciting maps just in Excel. And it looks like you can make custom maps as well, so that's quite cool.
Yeah.
It looks
The
cool.
one thing I'll figure out for next week as well is that I think you can put like shape files and stuff onto it as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. So then we can have a larger session next week, and we can combine that with Andrew's suggestion of doing some user experience tools to evaluate our dashboard feedback and stuff like that. So that's for next week. Thank you everyone for joining. Does anyone have any last questions? And if not, we'll end the session and reconvene next week.
I apologise for that technology.
It's not your problem. It's not your fault. So thanks for trying.
Yeah, it was a good session. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Johnny and
Thanks, John.
Andrew. Bye.
Cheers. Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.